Contempt for international aid has reached frightening heights in the Conservative Party. Their austerity fever has now spread to their plans for international development and Britain's impact on the global stage. At Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, Theresa May gave the strongest signal yet that the UK's 0.7% international aid target could be dropped. Scrapping the target will be welcomed by opponents of Britain's overseas and humanitarian assistance, whether they are established opponents in some media outlets or, bizarrely, one of the biggest bashers of aid minus the International Development Secretary, Priti Patel. But May and her cronies are wrong about foreign aid, and their grumbles about it being misspent and wasted are hollow and sinister. British investment in foreign aid not only works, it saves lives. The Ebola outbreak in West Africa in 2014 was one of the fastest spreading and most deadly epidemics in recent times. The disease had already claimed thousands of lives and spread to countries across the region before the UK government's package of direct support to help contain, control and treat Ebola halted the spread of the virus. When the Conservatives choose to scrap overseas aid targets, they jeopardize millions of lives, putting countless people at risk of catching deadly diseases. The anti-aid climate that has built up in Britain is finally starting to bite in a way that has catastrophic consequences for people in the developing world. More than 20 million face food shortages and starvation across Africa and Yemen. The Conservatives' antagonism to aid initially threatened and delayed the funding and urgent aid needed to prevent the unnecessary loss of human lives in famine-hit areas of Africa including Somalia, South Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia and northeast Nigeria, as well as Yemen. Humanitarian assistance in response to famine warnings saves lives minus we mustn't let the Conservatives politically attack the funding for these life-saving initiatives. Britain is better than this. We are not a nation that walks by on the other side. People's lives should not be the subject of political games. Labour made meeting the UK's aid obligations a permanent feature of British politics, and the development and improvements in hundreds of millions of people's lives that have resulted have been a credit to humanity. Britain's development achievements should stand as a point of pride for every one of us. The pretense that somehow aid spending takes away from domestic resources is a lie that must be quashed once and for all. Spending cuts at home have been a political choice by the Conservatives, intent on directing the nation's resources to radical tax cuts for big business and the super rich. A Labour government will proudly use Britain's status as a world leader in international development to avert crises such as the one unfolding across East Africa and beyond. The Conservative game playing, misinformation and distraction techniques around aid spending have got to stop. Britain must act swiftly to deal with the crisis. History will not forgive us if we fail this test.